Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine, just for a moment, the absolute weight of owing someone something completely impossible.
Yeah, not like 20 bucks for coffee.
No, exactly.
Huh.
Imagine a debt so huge, so astronomical, you could work lifetimes, sell everything, and still not even make a dent.
It's crushing, right? Just consumes everything. No hope.
And then suddenly the person you owe just looks at you, sees you're totally hopeless, and cancels it.
Poof. Gone. The whole impossible amount.
What would that feel like? The relief, the freedom, that sheer grace.
Mm-hmm.
Overwhelming.
Well, that powerful idea is exactly where we're starting this deep dive. We're exploring the practice of forgiveness.
And our source today is an excerpt we've been looking at within the H7O ministry.
Right. It's a daily devotional called The Practice of Forgiveness, a reflection of grace.
Our mission really is to dig into the specific text. What's the core insight here?
Yeah, why does it say forgiveness isn't just nice, but, like, essential? And how does it connect forgiving others back to that grace we might have received? How does spending time with this source give us a clearer lens, maybe even a shortcut to understanding this?
Okay, let's dive in. The devotional takes us straight to a story Jesus told, Matthew 18, a parable about a king settling accounts.
Yes, and right away, this master calls in a servant who owes him just a mind-blowing amount,
The source flags the sum, 10,000 talents.
which is hard to even grasp. A talent was huge, maybe 20 years' wages, 10,000.
It was, like the devotional says, completely unpayable by the servant. Just impossible.
So the master, seeing the servant has nothing, orders him, his wife, kids, everything sold, just to try and get something back.
A really harsh reality.
And the servant is desperate, falls on his knees begging, "Have patience with me and I will pay you everything."
Which, as the source notes, was just impossible. He couldn't.
But here's the pivot the devotional highlights. The master is moved. The word used is compassion.
Right. And instead of the harsh order, he does something radical.
He releases the servant. And not just that, he completely forgives the debt, all 10,000 talents, wiped clean.
Wow. Just pure, unearned mercy on this incredible scale.
So you picture that servant walking away, free from this life-destroying burden. You'd expect, I don't know, gratitude, maybe eagerness to show some mercy himself.
And this is where the story takes that jarring turn, and the devotional really focuses on the contrast.
The same servant, fresh off receiving this unbelievable forgiveness,
Immediately goes out and finds a fellow servant who owes him money.
and the devotional is careful to give the amount 100 denarii.
A denarius, maybe a day's wage.
Yeah.
100 denarii, maybe a few months' pay.
Significant, sure, but compared to 10,000 talents.
It's nothing. Like a speck of dust next to a mountain range, as he said.
Exactly. So this forgiven servant grabs the guy. The source says he starts choking him, demanding, "Pay what you owe.
And the other servant pleads, using almost the exact same word.
Have patience with me and I will pay you."
But this time,
Zero mercy. The devotional really underscores this. He refused, threw the guy in prison until he could pay back that small debt.
cold. And other servants saw this happen.
Yeah, they were deeply disturbed, and they went straight back to the master, told him everything.
And the master's reaction.
Righteous anger, as the devotional puts it, he calls that first servant back in.
And confronts him.
Basically says, "You wicked servant, I canceled all that massive debt because you begged me. Shouldn't you have shown some compassion, just like I showed you?"
Mm-hmm. The disconnect is staggering.
And the consequence is swift. The angry master hands him over to be punished, tormented, until he can pay back the original huge debt.
Which, of course, he never could. He's right back where he started, crushed by the unpayable.
So what's the absolute core message the devotional pulls from this intense story?
Well, it seems to boil down to this. The forgiveness we receive from God. It comes with a requirement, doesn't it?
A non-negotiable one. It demands a practical response from us. We're called to forgive others because we've been forgiven. And in the same way...
It's not optional. It's part of the deal, so to speak.
Right. And the devotional notes this whole parable was Jesus answering Peter. Peter asked, "How many times should I forgive?" Like 7 times.
Thinking he was being generous.
And Jesus tells the story basically saying, "Peter, you don't get the scale of grace you've received if you're counting." It shows how seriously Jesus takes refusing mercy after you've received it.
In that contrast, the devotional keeps highlighting the unpayable debt versus the small one.
Exactly. The unpayable debt is our sin before God. We had no way to clear it. Salvation, redemption, it's pure mercy, pure grace, given, not earned.
So when that servant refuses to forgive the tiny debt,
The source calls it the incoherence of a faith that does not generate grace in relationships.
Incoherence, that's a strong word. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
It's a contradiction. How can you claim infinite grace for yourself and then hold on to petty debts against others? The devotional says those two things just don't fit.
Okay, so digging deeper into the story, what are the main truths the source wants us to really get?
Well, first, it really hammers home that unpayable debt point. It symbolizes our guilt before God. We were utterly incapable of fixing it ourselves. Salvation is sheer mercy.
And then there's that really challenging part.
Yeah, this is where it gets maybe uncomfortable. The devotional argues that the forgiveness someone receives can actually become judgment if it's not practiced.
How does that work?
The source suggests the unforgiving servant showed he hadn't truly understood or been changed by the grace. The debt was canceled on the books, but his heart hadn't changed.
So the lack of change shown by his unforgiveness meant the grace he received didn't ultimately stick.
Right, it became the basis for him being called back to account. Because he didn't pass it on, it showed he didn't really grasp its value.
Wow. The source also talks about the kind of forgiveness Jesus wants.
Yes, it has to be from the heart, not just going through the motions, saying the words.
So a deep, sincere release.
Stemming from a changed inner self. The devotional calls it the fruit of regeneration, something that flows out naturally from encountering God's grace.
Which leads to maybe the boldest statement in the source.
That refusing to forgive is basically denying the gospel itself.
Yeah. Explain that a bit.
Well, the devotional argues faith isn't just beliefs, it's lived out. It has to translate into practical mercy.
So to receive the amazing news of God's mercy and then withhold similar mercy.
For much smaller things, it fundamentally contradicts the message. It's like saying through your actions, that grace wasn't that big a deal, or it's not for sharing.
Okay, so this isn't just theory. The source pushes us towards personal reflection, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It gets very practical. It asks some direct questions for you, the listener.
Take a moment and really think. First, is there someone you haven't forgiven, even knowing how much you've been forgiven by God?
Second, when you do forgive, is it just surface level, or does it come from a heart truly touched by grace?
And third, how can you actually grow in compassion and mercy, especially when dealing with people who've hurt you?
These questions lead straight into the practical steps the devotional suggests.
Where do we start?
First step, honestly review your heart. The source suggests listing offenses, maybe just mentally, that you haven't really forgiven.
And
Pray for each one. And the devotional uses this amazing phrase, release that forgiveness as if you were paying a debt with joy.
paying a debt with joy. That really flips the script, doesn't it? Forgiveness as a privilege, reflecting the debt we had canceled.
Exactly. Second step, actively practice the gospel in relationships.
Okay.
The devotional is direct. If God forgave your 10,000 talents, don't hold on to small emotional debts.
Right. Don't sweat the small stuff when you've been let off the hook for the mountain, like getting mad about lint after a mansion was gifted to you.
Precisely. Don't let those small things block the flow of grace you've received.
And the third step.
Teach by example. Live this out so others see it. And the devotional stresses this kind of forgiveness isn't weakness.
It's presented as strength transformed by the cross.
Yeah, it takes real inner strength, a strength the source links to understanding Christ's sacrifice, to forgive genuinely, especially when it's hard. It's supernatural.
The devotional also includes a prayer.
Great model. Asking God, who's shown us such grace, to help us reflect that same compassion and mercy.
Praying for strength to live free from bitterness. Releasing grace.
As a testimony, living full of Christ's love, which is tied right into this ability to forgive.
And the source doesn't shy away from the warning at the end of the parable.
No, it brings back Jesus' own words. So will my heavenly Father do if you do not forgive your brother from your heart. A stark reminder.
It really underlines the gravity. Forgiveness isn't just a nice suggestion.
The devotional calls it the mark of a true disciple. Fundamental.
Ultimately, the source emphasizes God's forgiveness isn't complete in us until it moves through us.
It has to overflow. That's how the transformation becomes real, visible in our relationships. It's not enough for our debt to be canceled. That freedom should free others through us.
So this deep dive challenges us. It makes us look at our own struggles with unforgiveness differently, doesn't it?
Yeah, it suggests those struggles reflect how deeply, or maybe how shallowly, we've grasped the mercy shown to us.
What are our actions towards others really saying about what we believe has been done for us?
And that leads to the final thought the source leaves us with.
If refusing to forgive denies the gospel, then what does the act of forgiving, especially when it's really tough, what does that powerfully affirm about our faith and the grace we've received?
That's a question that really stays with you.
This deep dive, as we said, came from a daily devotional from the H7O ministry. We're really grateful to be part of that ministry and explore these resources.
Yeah, it's a blessing to dig into this together.
We want to thank you, our listener, and the whole H7O community for joining us today. If you want to learn more about H7O ministry or support the work, including devotionals like this one, please visit h7o.life.
Thank you for diving deep with us. Happy Sunday.
See you tomorrow.